Welcome back to Snake Marriage on the Raven Horror Stories channel. I hope you all have a spooky listening experience. Raven's channel specializes in recounting eerie tales of witchcraft, curses, dark romance, and other spiritual occurrences. If any of you have a ghost story you'd like Raven to share, you can send it to the Gmail address or the Zalo phone number displayed on the screen, everyone. Before you dive into the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to catch the newest horror story videos. And now, let's jump into today's tale. The first story in today's collection was sent to Raven by a female listener. She says she's from Saigon and has lived and worked there her whole life, without any family or relatives in the Mekong Delta region. As a result, from the time she was little until she grew up, she just stayed around the house and went to school, never venturing down to the Mekong Delta, though she'd heard through the news and from friends that, down there, the fields and mountains are incredibly beautiful, but she'd never been there to see for herself. Then, when she was in college, she became close friends with this one girl, Hazel. During one summer break, Lina said to her, "Hey, now's the time. You've never been down to the Mekong Delta to hang out. My hometown is in the Mekong Delta. Why don't you come to my hometown? I'll take you down there." Hearing her friend's invitation, she wanted to go, but she was hesitant, because on one hand, she wanted to see what the Mekong Delta was like, and on the other hand, she wanted to visit her friend's family. But she was also very prone to car sickness, and any time she got on a bus, she'd immediately start throwing up, so she was really afraid of the smell of the bus. So, what should she do? In the end, she refused. But her friend kept insisting, saying, "Come on, you're always complaining to me that you've never seen my hometown, so now that I have the chance to take you, there's no reason not to go. It'll be fine." Her friend kept pushing, and she felt awkward refusing her, so she finally agreed, setting aside her car sickness, and deciding, whatever, even if I throw up, it's worth it to go down there and play. After deciding to visit her friend's house, she spent half a day on the bus, and let me tell you, it was exhausting. She threw up the whole way, but she was determined to reach her friend's house. When she arrived at Lina's house, she saw that it was a very well-maintained, single-story home typical of the Mekong Delta. It might have been a Thai-style roof, maybe. Her parents, grandmother, and great-grandmother were all still there, as her parents had married young, so they had Lina early. She said, "Listen, it was a lot of fun to visit, but because I went during the rainy season, it was always drizzling, and at 6 or 7 p.m., it was as dark as 11 or 12 p.m. in the city, which was so depressing. And there was nothing to do." She wondered, should I just go back? But that would be awkward, since she was supposed to stay for a few days. She was bored and didn't know what to do, until one evening, Lina suggested inviting her great-grandmother to tell ghost stories. She was really scared of ghosts, but she also loved listening to ghost stories, and since she was in this region, it seemed fitting to listen to some spooky tales, because she won't reveal which province, but she said it was in the Mekong Delta and had mountains, so there's a high chance it's in Jiang. Behind Hazel's house was a huge rice field, and there were mountains behind that. Her great-grandmother told them a story that she'd kept hidden for a long time, and had rarely shared with anyone. This story didn't involve her directly, but it involved a close friend and neighbor from when she was a young girl, many years ago. This story remains a spiritual mystery of the mountain range behind Lina's house to this day. That's why she wants to keep the name of the mountain a secret. The story, according to the great-grandmother, was that when she was around 15 or 16 years old, she was friends with a woman in the village named Nana. Nana's father had died early, shot dead or something, and she lived with just her mother, Amelia. Hazel's great-grandmother used to call her Aunt Amelia. Hazel's great-grandmother's name was Lane, but let's call her Charlotte, since she was very young at the time. The two girls were about the same age, and their houses were close together, so it was easy for them to go out and play together, or go to the fields to harvest rice. However, after they had been friends for a while, Charlotte's mother, the great-grandmother, forbade her from seeing Nana, scolding her and saying, "I forbid you, do you hear me? Don't be friends with that girl. Don't tell her I said this, but I don't like how you're always following her around. Haven't you noticed? Every other day, she's hanging out with this guy, and every other day, she's with that guy. I see her with too many guys. Sometimes she's with your Uncle Liam, and then she dumps him and goes after Mr. Caleb's son. Can you believe it? I'm telling you, if you keep hanging out with her, one day she'll lead you down the wrong path, and you'll end up pregnant and bring shame on our family." She was saying that Nana was involved with too many men, and she was afraid that if Nana got pregnant, it would reflect badly on their family, which had always been respectable. Charlotte listened to her mother and tried to avoid spending time with Nana. But since they were close friends, they couldn't completely cut each other off. They didn't have any real arguments or anything, so they still saw each other, but secretly, without her mother knowing. It was true, Charlotte noticed that every couple of days, Nana would be with a different guy, and when they hung out, they would sleep together. She could tell whenever Nana had just slept with a man, even though there was no engagement or wedding. But Nana's mother never scolded her. Then one day, something happened. Aunt Amelia, Nana's mother, yelled, "What? You're pregnant? Where's the father? There hasn't been a wedding or anything, and now you're telling me you're pregnant?" Nana had gone home and told her mother that she was pregnant, causing a commotion. Charlotte and her mother overheard the commotion. "See? See what I told you? You keep hanging out with her. Now she's pregnant. There's no husband in sight. People have broken up with her and left her." Charlotte didn't say anything, because her mother's scolding was right. But she felt sorry for Nana. It seemed like someone had gotten her pregnant and then abandoned her, and no one was going to marry her. So, she secretly went to visit Nana and brought her food. Nana only wanted to eat the dishes that Charlotte cooked, so she made them for her, because they were close friends. After a few months, Nana's belly grew bigger, and Aunt Amelia stopped scolding her, saying, "Well, if he left, he left. But I'm still going to let my grandchild be born to bring joy to the family. What else can I do? You've always liked to hang out with men, and now I don't know what to do." Charlotte's mother also relented. "You can go over there if you want, I don't care, just don't you dare follow in her footsteps. See how miserable she is now." Back then, things were very strict, and there were all sorts of rules and customs, so when Nana got pregnant out of wedlock, the neighbors gossiped and cursed her. The two mothers just had to endure it. The more pregnant Nana became, the more Charlotte's family felt sorry for her and her mother. Finally, Nana gave birth to a baby girl, named Lily. They lived as normally as they could, ignoring what people said. When Lily was 2 years old, bandits came to the village. In the middle of the night, they knocked on every door, telling people to flee, because they were killing people in the next village over, mostly virgins. Any unmarried girls who were pretty were being assaulted. They asked if there had been any gunshots, but there hadn't been any. So, it wasn't really war or anything. Where did this gang come from? Those years were very chaotic, and it wasn't just a boss. The great-grandmother, who was telling the story, was in her 90s, so if she was a teenager around 1945 or 1946, it was probably during the period of French colonialism. It could have been a gang of thugs who were robbing people, and if they saw pretty girls, they would assault them. Regardless of who they were concerned because they had a daughter in the house. Even though their daughter was no longer a virgin, they still loved her. She was also worried about how to let Nana escape. People were saying that families with daughters should flee immediately in the night. Amelia, Nana's mother, went over to Charlotte's house, and the two families discussed what to do, since they both had daughters. Charlotte was in a better situation, since she didn't have any children, but Nana had a 2-year-old baby girl. If they fled, they would have to take the child. Back then, there were no cars, so they would have to walk, and they were afraid they wouldn't be able to escape. So, they started thinking. That night, Nana's mother lay in bed thinking, when she fell asleep and heard someone tugging at her feet, like something was wrapped around her legs, telling her to go to the mountains, to flee to the mountains. It kept urging her to get up. When she woke up, she told Nana, "Let's go to the mountains to hide." She also told Charlotte's mother, "I'm planning to take my daughter and granddaughter to the mountains to hide." But Charlotte's mother didn't agree, because who flees to the mountains to escape bandits? Most of the mountains were low, and they couldn't climb the high ones. If they wanted to escape the bandits, they had to leave the area, or go somewhere far away, on foot, not climb the mountains, because no matter how high they climbed, the bandits could still follow them. That was Charlotte's family's idea. Charlotte's mother didn't agree. She said, "If you want to go, take your daughter and granddaughter. I'll send my daughter to her aunt's house and let her go in the night." In the end, the two families didn't agree. Amelia, Nana's mother, decided to take Nana and her baby granddaughter and climb the mountain behind the rice field to escape the bandits. Even though they had to walk and cross streams, it was still far, not close at all. Even though it looked like it was behind the house, it was still far to walk. The reason Amelia was confident about leading her daughter and granddaughter to the mountain was because she had gone there before to collect herbs and chop wood, but only in the foothills, not up into the forest. This time, they were risking it all to escape the bandits, so they decided to climb all the way up. The two women and the child struggled up the mountain until midday, around 12 or 1 p.m. In reality, according to the description, the mountain wasn't very steep, it was easy to climb. They followed the easy sections, and avoided the steep, rocky sections. When they reached the high point, they sat under a large tree, where they could see the whole rice field and their village in the distance. It wasn't far away, it was like they were camping on a mountain and looking down, just like that. The first thing they did was lay out a mat and put up a mosquito net for the baby to sleep in, because they were afraid of mosquitoes and other insects, and that snakes would crawl into the net and bite the baby, because the jungle was full of dangers. They had to protect the child first. The child was probably exhausted, because she had been carried all the way up, and she was worn out. As soon as she was placed in the net, she fell fast asleep, not crying at all. She wasn't even hungry. So, they let her sleep and looked around the area. They chased away any snakes or other creatures, because there were a lot of snakes hiding in the leaves and branches. They had to choose a safe place, or a cave, where they could take shelter from the rain and wind. Finally, they found a tree, they didn't know what kind, that was very big, as if it was made for the three of them. There was a huge hollow in the tree that they could crawl into. After the child fell asleep, the two women didn't know what to do. From noon until evening, Nana just sat there thinking, feeling sad, because she was up there in a calm place, and she started thinking about the man who had betrayed her. She thought, why did I give myself to him? I only knew him for a few days, and I slept with him, and now he got me pregnant and left me to go home and have the baby myself, without even checking in on me or marrying me. What's wrong with me? She knew that she had done wrong by her mother, and she felt like a bad woman. She felt guilty and sad. She didn't know what to do, especially since they were on a mountain, surrounded by dark trees. By 5 or 6 p.m., they couldn't see the sun anymore, because there were so many big trees. Nana wasn't sitting in the hollow of the tree anymore. She went out to a rocky ledge that jutted out, where she could see her village. Some of the people who lived there were probably familiar with this ledge. She sat there because it had a better view, and more importantly, it was more open and she could see the sky. In the hollow where her mother was sitting, it was dark. She sat there, feeling sad, angry, and humiliated, a mix of emotions. She didn't know what to do, what the night would bring, or what the future held. Suddenly, she saw lightning, but there was no rain. The monkeys in the forest were screaming, and the birds were flying out in a long line. She was scared, because some of the birds were flying into her face. She was startled, and as she was about to stand up and run back to her mother and child, she slipped and fell. She fell off the rocky ledge. She knew she would hit the ground in less than a minute. However, somehow, in that split second, she stopped falling. One of her hands was still clinging to the ledge. When she fell, she instinctively reached out to grab something, but there was nothing to grab, because the rock was smooth and slippery. Then, just as she was about to fall, it seemed like a hand grabbed hers. It was a very long hand. The more I lowered myself, the more that hand followed, pulling me down with it. It felt like I was being slowly, carefully reeled in, not yanked abruptly up to the edge of the cliff. When I finally reached the top, I lay there gasping for breath, half dead with fear. All I could see were a pair of extremely long legs. The person was so tall that I had to crane my neck to look up. I could barely make out their face, but I could tell they were tall, broad-shouldered, and surprisingly slender, wearing strange clothing. It looked like something out of a martial arts movie, but it was a shiny, metallic gold. What struck me as oddest was the scales covering their arms and legs. They looked like fish scales, countless in number, and each one was about the size of my palm, shimmering with a bizarre golden light. Before I could even catch my breath, the person spoke. "What were you thinking, being so reckless? Sitting on the edge like that? If I hadn't been here, you would have fallen and been smashed to pieces." Their tone was scolding, like I was being irresponsible for sitting in such a dangerous place. Even though I was scared stiff by this strange person, I couldn't help but think, is this some kind of demon? How can they be so huge and covered in scales? Definitely not human. Way bigger than me. Still, they had saved me, so I managed to say, Thank you. I don't know what to call you." After I thanked them, the person turned and walked away, heading straight down the cliff. Down into the deep ravine, disappearing completely. It was so strange, so frightening. I had to run back to see if my mom and kid were okay. What if a tiger or something had eaten them? I scrambled back to where my mom was, and she was still sitting there, and the baby was still sound asleep. Thank goodness, they were unharmed. What's all that commotion about? Who's chasing you? A snake? A tiger? A leopard? My mom asked. I shook my head. No. It's just that it got dark, and I was worried, so I ran back. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. We took out the remaining food and ate it all. What else could we do? After eating, we crawled back into the hollow of the tree and went to sleep. Around midnight, we both heard a strange noise. It sounded like a cobra hissing, and then footsteps. But these weren't ordinary people. We both sat up, startled. Right in front of us, outside the mosquito net, was a man dressed in all black, so dark that I couldn't make out his face. He was wearing the same outfit as the person from earlier, but a different color. His body was also covered in scales, and he was sticking out his tongue in a disturbing way. Behind him were 5 women, also shadowy and indistinct. I could only make out their clothing. They were wearing brightly colored dresses that looked like fairy costumes, thin and flowing. My mom lifted the mosquito net, fearfully asking, Who? Who is it? These people were so strange. Surely they weren't bandits looking to eat us. But who were they? The man answered in a strange voice, How would you like to marry your daughter to my ex-Duong? Just say the word. My mom looked bewildered. Ex-Duong? Who or what was that? What are you talking about? Who are you? We're just running from the war, hiding up here. We don't know anyone. Please don't kill us. The man shook his head. I stepped forward hesitantly. Sir. Who is ex-Duong? He replied, That fellow Asher you met earlier, don't you remember? I racked my brains. Wait, I've only been up here for half a day. Who did I meet? Could he mean the person from this afternoon who saved me from falling? The one who disappeared? Before I could say anything, he asked, So, do you agree? If you do, I'll bring the dowry. I hesitated, unable to answer. This was a big decision. And why would I marry this person? I didn't even know who he was. A demon? A ghost? Definitely not human. That's when my Aunt Amelia grabbed my arm, scolding, Hey, you! Ex-Duong? Who is that? Did you meet someone up here? I swear, you never change. You met 2 or 3 guys down there, and now you're doing the same thing up here. I quickly defended myself. No, it's just that I slipped on the cliff this afternoon. I was about to fall, but that person saved me. I was too scared to tell you about it, Mom. He really did save me. My Aunt Amelia brushed it off. No, 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 it's a demon trying to trick you. Just stay in here and pray. That'll scare it away. But the people didn't leave. I started to think. If we stay here, we'll starve to death. And if we go down the mountain, the soldiers will kill us. Maybe I should agree. Maybe this person is rich. He seemed decent enough, tall and strong. Maybe he could take care of me. I might as well say yes. Maybe my future will be brighter. So, I nodded in agreement. But my Aunt Amelia slapped me hard across the face, yelling, Are you crazy? This is a demon. It's a ghost. It's a monster disguised as a person. Are you insane? Get back in the mosquito net and don't say anything. My Aunt Amelia was stubborn. But seeing how determined I was, she asked, Why are you agreeing? The man outside the mosquito net answered matter-of-factly, We're worse than demons. Don't talk like that. But let me tell you something, once you agree, you can never tell anyone about this, not even half a word. If you do, you'll die a horrible death. I can't guarantee what will happen. Don't blame me when it does. I was forced into a corner. There was nothing my mom and I could do. My Aunt Amelia fell silent, and I nodded again. However, I added, If anyone asks to marry me, can I bring my mother and child with me? I've already been married once, and I have a child. Would you accept me? He replied, It doesn't matter. We don't care if a woman has been married before or has children. When a woman comes up here, we already know everything about her. You don't need to tell me anything. I already know, but I still came to ask for your hand because we have a connection, a debt from a past life. That's why Ex-Duong wants to marry you. If you agree, just nod once more, and I'll bring the betrothal gifts. The night air on the mountain was cool, but we were both sweating profusely. What to do? Before we could say anything, the 5 women each presented us with a box, just like the old wooden treasure chests. When we opened them, our eyes nearly popped out. They were full of gold. Solid gold, not cheap imitation. Gold necklaces, jewels, it was like something out of a fairy tale. I didn't even know how to use any of it. But the last box contained betel leaves and areca nuts, neatly prepared. The man said that whether you were human, demon, ghost, or God, you needed betel leaves and areca nuts to get married. It symbolized the union between two people, the bond of marriage. He continued, if you agree, then both of you should rest now. Tomorrow morning, at dawn, I'll have Xa Duong come here to welcome the bride. Maybe this man was just a matchmaker, coming to talk, and the main character hadn't even appeared yet. He finished speaking and turned to leave. The 5 women disappeared too, vanishing into the mist. It was so strange. But who could I call for help? I couldn't divorce him now, because the 5 boxes were still sitting right in front of us, and they hadn't disappeared. We stayed awake all night, not daring to sleep. We had already lived in poverty for so long, and we had had enough of war. Hopefully, if I married this person, I could live here and never have to go back down. We knew that these people weren't ordinary. We also wondered, if I marry someone who isn't human, a saint or a demon, where will I live? I'm human, I'm alive. How can I live like that? But we were curious and wanted to see what would happen. Around dawn, we heard footsteps again, shuffling and scraping. This time, we could definitely hear them. Many people were coming toward us. When we looked outside the mosquito net, there were 2 straight lines of people. One line was women, and the other line was men. The men and women were wearing identical clothing. There were about a dozen of those women. Standing at the front was the man who had spoken to us last night. And at the very end, the biggest, shiniest, most golden person was the man I had met yesterday. He was standing at the very back. Then the man called out to us, "You don't need to bring anything. We'll take care of the betrothal gifts. Just bring the woman, her mother, and the baby, and we'll lead you." When the mosquito net was pulled back, this was the first time I really saw the face of the man. He was very handsome, truly. Handsome in a way that was old-fashioned, but he was beautiful. My Aunt Amelia said later that there were no words to describe it. His face was full and kind. The only thing was that he was huge, like a giant, so tall, and he was wearing the golden outfit, covered in scales, just like I described. He said, "Hurry and open the mosquito net. I'll take you now." My mom and I went out. I held the baby, who was still asleep and didn't fuss or cry. She was very well behaved, and she followed along. For some reason, we were placed next to the golden man. They led us, and it felt like we were walking on the ground, on the rocks of the mountain. But instead of following the path we had taken up the mountain, we went a different way, towards the cliff, straight to the edge. Can you believe it? They led us along the side of the mountain. Normally, you'd have to lean to keep from falling off the cliff. But we didn't. We just walked along, leaning a little, but never falling. It was so strange. I felt like I was walking on the side of the mountain. We looked down, and our village was still dark, shrouded in night, but up here, we were walking with these people. After a while, we could only see clouds, nothing else. The clouds were so close, we couldn't see anything beyond them. That's when I asked the man, "Where's my new home? Can you point me in the right direction?" The man said, "I can show you where it is, but I can't show you the way. You don't need to know the way. You'll see it when we get there." That was all he said. He didn't say another word. We kept walking, feeling the stones of the mountain beneath our feet. But it was so light, we glided along. After a while, we didn't feel like we were walking on anything at all. We felt like we were floating, being pulled along by the group. I couldn't see our village anymore. In the distance, there was a house. The roof looked like the home of a king or an emperor from the old days, not my humble hut, not like the houses of the landowners. It was huge. Gold leaf and paint, magnificent, situated on top of another mountain. When we entered, it was dazzling, incredibly luxurious in an old-fashioned way. But when I looked around, the house was empty. There was nothing inside except for a table, chairs, and a place to sleep. That was it. And oh my goodness, I was terrified when I stepped inside. The house was full of snakes. Green snakes, all kinds of snakes, cobras. I was scared, but I tried to stay calm. My Aunt Amelia panicked and started screaming. She wanted to go back, but how could we? Jump off the mountain? We had to go inside. We were scared and bewildered, so I asked, why? Why is the house full of snakes? That's when the man spoke to me. He was no longer in the form of my husband, but a snake. A huge snake, coiled and swaying, raising its head to speak. He said, I belong to a family of snakes on this mountain. My ancestors were human, but they were reincarnated as snakes. We didn't move on, we stayed on this mountain and cultivated ourselves. We had children, and our children went to different places to cultivate themselves, like us. As our family cultivated itself, we gained more and more abilities, magic, and we could transform ourselves. Ordinary people can never see us. Only those who share our blood can see us. I took pity on you when I saw you running up here. I don't know what your life was like before. I also liked you, and I wanted you to be my wife. Only you, your mother, and your child can see my family. We don't care if other people believe us or not. If people can see us, they'll believe us. If they can only hear about us, even if they pass the story down, they'll say it's just a fabrication because it's too unbelievable. I know that people in your village don't believe there's a family of snakes here. But the snakes in my family are vegetarian. We don't eat meat, and we don't bite anyone. When I heard him say that, I started to feel less scared, like I could belong to this family. He seemed decent, and no one was trying to hurt me. He spoke kindly. I was poor down below, and I would die in the war anyway. I might as well change my life and live in a paradise. No one from my village knows about this. I'd be so lucky. So, I decided to stay with the snake, living in a house full of snakes. My mom gritted her teeth and endured it for my sake, but she didn't want to live there. My aunt said that we ate according to the local customs, eating vegetables and grass, no meat, and sitting with all the snakes. At night, I even slept with the snake. My Aunt Amelia only told us this story on her deathbed, so she couldn't say much. She couldn't tell us how we lived, what we ate. She didn't say much. She only said that after 5 or 10 days, she started to miss home. She'd rather be poor than live here. The house was big and beautiful, but it was so empty, and all we could see was the sky, and we couldn't see any other houses. Day was like night, and night was like day. How could she live like that? She said to me, I want to go home so badly. Let's go back. We told the snake, and he said, you have 2 choices. One is to stay here until you die and live a peaceful life. The other is to go back home, but you have to stay there. Absolutely no going back, not even a little bit. But if word of this gets out once you're back down there, you and your mother are as good as dead. Tone's warning was crystal clear. This secret, this bit of divine knowledge, could never be spoken of. They were torn, mother and daughter, trying to figure out what to do. One option was to return together, but the other meant they'd be stuck up there forever, unable to ever go home. "Mom, I have to tell you something. I'm pregnant." Strangely enough, the snake had told the Nana woman the day before, "You're going to have a child. And when that child is born, she will give birth to another snake. This snake will be responsible for continuing the family line." Basically, that meant this secret could never reach her mother. She'd have to go back alone. And so, she ultimately decided that she'd rather die back home than abandon her land, her fields, and her family's graves. It seemed likely she'd never see her daughter again in this life. And true to their word, despite the agreement, they still took Amelia back, using the same path up the mountain. Once they got her back on solid ground, they vanished. Now she was alone with a house that had fallen into disrepair after all the chaos. A few days after getting back, she finally ran into Charlotte, the great-grandmother of your friend Lina, who's telling this story. Charlotte had also returned from wherever she'd been, once the upheaval had settled down, to rebuild her home. People asked, "Where's your daughter? Where's your granddaughter?" She wouldn't say anything, only, "She ran off with some guy, chasing after a new husband. I don't know where she is. Help me, I'm all alone now and will be until I die. She's gone for good." Of course, she couldn't tell them the truth. And who was by her side, helping her rebuild? Charlotte's mother, who helped her rebuild the house, bring back the buffalo, and find ways to survive. They lived like that for years, until she died in her 80s, never revealing the secret to anyone. Only on her deathbed did she tell Charlotte's mother, Lina's great-grandmother. She told her everything from beginning to end, and that's how the great-grandmother knew the whole story. But even knowing, there were still so many mysteries, like what the man looked like, which mountain path they took, where the house is now, whether the snakes are still up there. What did the mother and daughter eat every day? How did they live and talk to each other? All these questions remain unanswered. They're buried with Amelia in her grave. As for the Nana woman and her daughter, they will probably never return, having become daughters-in-law to those people. Honestly, after hearing this story from your great-grandmother, it's hard to believe. Lina, is your great-grandmother telling fairy tales? Is she spinning some folk legend? But it's not like that at all. Wherever else you go, there's a reason why people call this area the land of enchantment. Especially in these mountains, there are countless mysterious stories that can't be explained, especially those involving snakes. There are snake spirits, snakes who cultivate themselves, snake families who practice like humans. How would ordinary people know about these things? Only if you have a connection, if you're lucky enough to meet them, will you hear these stories. But most of them are divine secrets that aren't meant to be revealed. Many people know, but they don't dare to tell the next generation, fearing they'll be struck dead, like Amelia. She had barely finished telling the story when she died, a death that seemed like someone had deliberately taken her away. But because of that, we know this strange story today. It's not terrifying or ghostly, but it makes you think, how can such things happen in this world? And it happened right here in our own Mekong Delta. And so, our story comes to an end. Before you go, please like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to see the newest ghost stories. If you enjoyed this story, please leave a comment below to share with everyone. And now, please look forward to the next story. Goodbye, and see you next time. Aside from the mother, no one truly pitied the young girl's fate. The mother gritted her teeth, suppressing her heartache, accepting this strange life for her daughter's sake, even though she didn't want to stay there. As the great-grandmother told it, the two lived according to the strange customs of that land, eating only vegetables and never touching meat or fish. Meals were eaten among swarming snakes, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Even sleep was shared with a snake. Later, when Amelia breathed her last, fragmented memories were revealed. Because she was dying, she couldn't tell the story in detail, only vaguely describing her and her mother's life and their meager meals. After about 10 or 15 days, the longing for home became overwhelming. Despite their poverty and hard work, she couldn't get used to living there. The house was big and spacious, but desolate and quiet, with no people around. The days were like nights, and the nights were like days. How could she bear it? She confided in her fellow sufferer. "I miss home so much, V. Let's go back." Then she expressed her feelings to the snake. The snake gave her two terrible choices. 1. Stay here for the rest of your life, living a comfortable, prosperous life. 2. Return home, but once you leave this place, you must never return, not even a step. And if this secret is revealed, you and your mother will die. I'm warning you, this is heavenly fate, it must not be revealed. The two were in a dilemma. Whether they stayed or went, both choices were filled with pain. If they stayed, they would be stuck there forever. If they went, they would face death. "Mom, I'm pregnant." Strangely, the snake had told the Nana woman the day before. "You are pregnant. When the baby is born, it will continue to give birth to a snake. This snake will have the task of continuing our lineage." That prophecy was like a bucket of cold water on the girl's hopes of returning. If so, she couldn't go back with her mother. In the end, she decided to let her mother return home alone, accepting death rather than living far from her homeland and ancestral graves. From now on, she and her loved ones would probably never have a chance to meet again. True to their agreement, after taking Amelia back to her hometown, those people disappeared without a trace. She returned to her old house, which was desolate after years of war. A few days later, Charlotte, the great-grandmother of your friend Lina, also returned home after the chaos. Rebuilding her house, Charlotte was asked about her daughter and granddaughter. She hid the truth, only saying, "She ran away with a man, married far away. I don't know where she is anymore. Help me, I'm all alone now, living in loneliness until the end of my life." The person who was by her side, helping Charlotte, was Charlotte's mother, Lina's great-grandmother. The two rebuilt their house together, took care of the fields, and lived day by day. That terrible secret was buried in her heart until she breathed her last at the age of 80. Before she died, she told the whole truth to Charlotte's mother, Lina's great-grandmother. The great-grandmother knew the story, but only that much. Many details remain a mystery to this day. What did the man look like? What road led to their home? Where is the house now? Are the snakes still alive? What did Amelia and her mother eat? How did they live? All of this is shrouded in mystery along with Amelia's death. As for the Nana woman and her daughter, they will probably never be able to return, because they have become daughters-in-law in a foreign land. Frankly, after hearing the story from your great-grandmother, it's hard to believe. Lina, is your great-grandmother telling fairy tales? Why does it sound so outlandish? But it's not a coincidence that people call this land the land of enchantment. In those mountains, there are countless mysterious stories that cannot be explained, especially stories about snakes. There are snake gods, snakes that cultivate themselves, and snake lineages that cultivate themselves just like humans. How can ordinary people know these things? Only when you have a connection, when you are lucky enough to meet them, can you hear these stories. But most of them are heavenly secrets that are not allowed to be revealed. Many people know but do not dare to tell future generations, for fear of being tongue-tied, dying an unnatural death like Amelia. She had barely finished telling the story when she passed away, a death that seemed like someone had deliberately taken her away. But thanks to that, today we know such a strange story. Although it is not terrifying or ghostly, it makes us think, How can such things happen in this world? And it happened right here in our own Mekong Delta. Our story ends here. Before saying goodbye, don't forget to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel to watch the latest ghost stories. If you find this story good, please leave a comment to share with everyone. And now, please look forward to the next episode. Goodbye and see you again.